Hello, everyone. We are a bit strict with the time, so I invite you all to sit in front, please. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us at this Rainbow Rose event organized under the Global Progressive Mobilization. When the PES Congress in Amsterdam last November introduced the Initiative for Progressive Global Mobilization, a movement bringing together progressive forces across the world to shape the future in this uncertain world, we in Rainbow Rose knew that we need to sit at a table and we need to be there to shape the agenda of this event. We knew that we need to be an integral part of this process and this movement. So here we are today in Barcelona, making sure our voices and ideas are heard, making sure that our LGBTIQ+ perspectives are heard, and that progressives deliver. Dear comrades, our work is far from over. The rise of illiberal forces, the rollback of rights, and the targeting of our communities requires us to respond with even greater solidarity, courage, and unity. That's why we organized this event today under the name Tackling the Culture War, Progressive Strategies for a New Discourse about Diversity in Europe. I want to thank Helena, Evelyn, Mark, and Javier for showing up for our community and contributing to this event today. I want to thank Sebastian, Ian, Carola, Sam, Marene, Carl, Sofia, Jessica, Philip, and Jan, Board and Control Commission members of Rainbow Rose, for making this happen, for your dedicated and courageous work that you do under the Rainbow Rose. Let us continue this journey with pride and purpose, together in solidarity. I would now invite Helena Dalli, former EU Commissioner for Equality, to give a keynote about the topic of the event.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you to Rainbow Rose and to all of you here today. When I was serving as European Commissioner for Equality, I met many people whose lives were directly shaped by the decisions that we took in Brussels. I remember speaking to a young trans person who told me something very simple. For the first time, I feel like Europe sees me. And that stayed with me, because it is easy in rooms like this to talk about strategies, directives, frameworks. But for that person, it was not any of this. It was not abstract. It was about dignity, about safety, about whether they could live their life openly. And today we have to ask ourselves, can we still say the same? What are we witnessing? What we are witnessing today is a deliberate political project to roll back equality. Across Europe, and beyond, rights that we fought for together are being questioned, undermined, and in some cases dismantled. LGBTIQ plus people, especially trans people, are being targeted because they are perceived as vulnerable. And when you normalize discrimination against one group, you make it easier to extend it to others. As European Commissioner, we worked to push Europe forward. We delivered the first ever EU LGBTIQ equality strategy. We advanced the Pay Transparency Directive because equal work must mean equal pay for everyone. We pushed for legislation to combat violence against women and domestic violence. And we worked to embed equality across all EU policies as a principle, not as an afterthought. Those were not symbolic steps. They changed lives. And yet today we are discussing how to defend those very gains. And this tells us something important. Progress does not disappear on its own. It is pushed back. And the pushback we are seeing is not accidental. It is organized, it is funded, it is coordinated across borders. This is a culture war, and it has been carefully built. So the question is, how serious are we? First, we must stop being defensive. We cannot limit ourselves to protecting what already exists. Because while we defend, others advance. We need to go on the offensive with clarity and confidence. Equality is not a threat. Diversity is not a weakness. Human rights are not negotiable. And we must say this politically and without apology or caution. Secondly, we must match their organization with our own. The anti-rights movement is coordinated across countries, across platforms, across institutions. We cannot afford to be fragmented. We need permanent cooperation, shared strategies, aligned messaging, because fragmented progressives cannot defeat coordinated backlash. And thirdly, we must use power, real power. The European Union has tools, and we must use them fully. Rules of law mechanisms, funding conditionality, strong enforceable legislation. Rights cannot depend on where you live in Europe. They must be guaranteed everywhere. We must protect those on the front lines, activists, civil society, LGBTIQ communities. Too many are facing harassment, intimidation, even violence. If they are left alone, we all become weaker. Supporting them is strategic, not optional. And finally, we must rebuild belief, because this is not only a political fight, it is an emotional one. The anti-rights movement spreads fear. We must respond with something stronger. Hope that is credible, security that is inclusive, and a vision of Europe where everyone belongs. I have seen what Europe can do at its best. I have seen laws change lives. I have seen people recognized where they were invisible. I have seen dignity restored where it was denied. That Europe still exists, but it will not defend itself. The other side is organized, they are determined, and they are advancing. So we must be more organized, more determined, and absolutely clear about what is at stake. Rights are never lost at once, all at once. They are eroded step by step. And if we do not draw the line now, clearly and collectively, history will ask why we didn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena, not just for your keynote, but also for the impressive and highly relevant work that you did as European Commissioner and that you continue to do now. Thank you for being with us. I think you have to leave soon-ish.
I still have some time
Perfect.
to stay with you, yes.
Then welcome again from my side. My name is Sebastian Pey. I'm the Vice President of Rainbow Rose and have the honor of guiding you through this discussion today. After our keynote, we are very happy to have a great panel here that I want to welcome now. First of all, Mark Angel, our member of the European Parliament and co-chair of the LGBTI Intergroup. Welcome today. Evelyn Regner, a member of the European Parliament from Austria, long-time activist in the field of unions, workers' rights, women's rights, and a great ally of our community, so welcome. And last but not least, Javier Rodriguez Nunes, the Commissioner for Childhood, Adolescence, Youth, and LGBTI in the city of Barcelona, so welcome and thank you for having us. I want to start this discussion today by recognizing not only how highly relevant the topic of our strategies against the current culture wars are. We see how much money is spent in attacking not only the LGBTI community, how much networking is spent not only in attacking especially the trans community, but how these struggles go together with other fights, with a fight against women's rights, against reproductive rights, against migrants' rights, and also with attacks on the fundamental pillars of the European society, the rule of law, democracy, a strong welfare state. These all are connected, and we want to bring especially these connections and how we can tackle them to the forefront today. I want to start, therefore, with your general assessment. I would go through the panel. From your different perspectives. We have the European level, we have the local level, we have the perspective of the LGBTI community, of the women's movement, of the unions movement. There is a lot being said and written about culture war. There is a lot being analyzed about culture war in recent years, and it got to everyone's attention that that's a problem that we need to tackle. Where exactly do you encounter the culture war right now? What are the strategies you see, and what is, in your opinion, probably not looked at enough? What do we miss in the discussion from your individual perspective? I would just give the floor to you, Evelyn, if you want to start, or Javier? Yeah?
I don't mind. Well, thank you. Is this on? Yeah. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, both as a Barcelonian, because Barcelona has always been like an open and diverse city ever since in 1977. We hosted like the first LGBT Pride in Spain 2 years after the dictatorship. And as commissioner of the city, because just as Rainbow Rose, we work every day just so human rights are implemented and respected everywhere. I would say that for me, the pushback comes first from the institutions, and then it spreads to the streets. We have seen it in Poland with the LGBT-free zones. We have seen it when they try to portray our movement as ideology. We have seen it in the City Council of Barcelona when they are linking all the time homosexuality with pedophilia. And for me, that's the first thing we have to identify, right? But the cultural war, the most dangerous strategy they have, the far right, is the using children as a Trojan horse. For me, that's the most dangerous thing I've seen for them using in this cultural war, because when they claim there's a freedom of education in order for children not to receive a diversity and inclusive education, they're trying to portray us as a threat. They're trying to portray us as something predatory, that we are trying to turn their children into something that we're not, right? So just as Ms. Daly said in her speech, I think we should react just nuanced, but very firmly. We need to, we are in the right here. We are just promoting diversity. We're just promoting equal rights for everyone and empathy for everyone. So I think it's very important that we do it in a nuanced way. We're not overreacting. We're just doing it by implementing, our rights and our agenda.
Thank you very much. I'm also very happy to be here with my sisters and brothers and friends from Rainbow Rose, and we've worked a lot together in the last mandate. So you were really the champion of equality, and we miss you dearly. Yeah, I think we have to react also with very easy language, as the far right does it. We have to tell them there is no LGBTI agenda or ideology. It's just a human rights agenda. Exactly. We don't want more rights for women or for LGBTIQ plus persons, just the same rights. It's just a non-discrimination agenda. This is very important to say. And also, I'm gay, not because I saw a movie about, or a Netflix series, or I was told in school that this exists, but as LGBTIQ plus persons, we are the product of the beautiful diversity of nature. And this is a very important message also. So there's nobody to protect, no children to protect. Even those people who in Hungary who scapegoat LGBTIQ plus person, they put people into danger. Young people committed suicide, etc. So they have blood on their fingers. And being open about this, that's a protection of children and also protection of family. Femicides, where do they happen? Most femicides happen at home. Most women who are killed in their own bed with kitchen knives. It's not the migrants on the streets who kill them. And we have to really counter these narratives by very simple narratives and explaining what it is about. When Evelyn and I, we were working in the European Parliament on Helena's wonderful pay transparency directive to close the gender pay gap, we were immediately accused by the far right, oh, this is woke, you're woke, this is... And then we said, sorry, it's in the treaty since 1957, equal pay for equal, and nothing happened. So we need to do, and they always try to put us into this ideological thing, and we just have to say, no, it's about human rights, it's about equality, anti-discrimination, that's it. And also saying something very important is being an LGBTIQ plus person is not an ideology, it's an identity, and it's not a choice. But being homophobic and being transphobic, that is a clear choice. And that's what they choose to be, and that's anti-human rights. And we have to take them with as easy language as they use. We have to counter that. And in the European Parliament, what worries me, and then I will finish, is that this gender ideology is the glue which keeps together the three far-right groups. They are very much divided on Russia and on Ukraine, but when it comes to this culture war and ideological things, there they are sticking together. And when they are in power somewhere, like Meloni in Italy, when the law came that for two lesbian mothers, the non-biological mother is erased of the birth certificate and of the papers of the children, these are quick deliverables. You don't need budget for that. And then people say, you see, she's doing what she promised. And this is also something we have to counter these tactics and denounce these tactics. So I'm looking forward to have a good discussion with all of you later.
I can say something, yes. Yes, because Mark is reminding me of when I used to be in Parliament with all of you there, and it was indeed good to hear the far-right parliamentarians speak, and they mean what they're saying. Yeah. And that is why, we have to counter that with emotion, as I said in my speech, because they are very emotional about how they look at this diversity spectrum. And I always used to appeal to this simplicity. For instance, when they invoke religion, I would say, okay, don't you say that all human beings are created in the image of God? And they look at me and they say, why are you? And then I say, okay, so if you have an LGBTIQ plus son or daughter, is he or she not in the image of your God? And you could get them thinking. So I think it is very important that we speak in terms of like with like. We appeal to the emotion as well, because they like to say that this is an ideology. No, of course not. It's not an ideology. It's how we are born. How we are born is not an ideology, and it's about human rights. And every person, however he or she is born, has the right. Eventually, all that we do is for every person to reach his or her full potential. But if we discriminate, we are not allowing that. We are suppressing talent because we are discriminating. So I think we really should appeal to this side of these human beings who, I'm sure when you speak to them in this way, in their heart of hearts, they say, this is true. But then, as Mark said, it's political. There's nothing which unites them. So they use this as the glue which helps them stick together for their cohesion, you know. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I just think it's not happening by chance. I don't know how the time organization was, that here we, the progressives, who are standing for hope, changing the world, are starting with Rainbow Rose and taking this energy we have together in order to change things to the better. Of course, first we have to analyze. I would like to add to the points all the wonderful panelists right now gave with following pictures. For me, one of the maybe most overseen features around is the fact that so many young, elder men, women, whatever, feel so terribly lonely. Really, loneliness is something when right-wing ideologies are going to that direction. Everybody is a hero that is doing his own dream and whatever, and then, of course, completely left alone. And when we just look at this terrible, disgusting happenings on the January 6th at the Capitol, when this mob was grasping for the Capitol in Washington, so somehow how well coordinated on the one side the political right-wing, completely disgusting part was acting with those lost souls. So somehow how coordinated they were grasping for those incel communities. I mean, sometimes we are dealing with people where you even can't imagine how the way people might think, but it's existing. And we had it, of course, also in European Parliament with terrible right-wing members that are still there. They're just doing their little movies, grasping for souls, and that's also especially also with young ones. Are you a young guy who would like to have a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and how to catch them? And I think this is something we underestimated for quite a while, how well coordinated and organized this is. And that's going via church and via Russian money and via US money and whatsoever.
European money.
And the other thing I would like to bring in, but maybe that's also something for the next round, is from my point of view, we don't talk, I mean, at least I would love to, that we're talking more on that this cultural war, this disgusting cultural war is also class war. And class war, I mean, if it's not us to deal with it, who else? So, I mean, it's about right now, of course, looking, no, you're not alone, and therefore I love it always so much when we're just bringing together, we just say that radikale Solidarität in German, radical solidarity, cross-border, feminist, LGBTI community, so somehow that we are doing this also as a class action.
Thank you very much. I have to make a short advertisement. Evelyn also co-wrote a great book that's called Radical Solidarity that we should probably publish in English at some point. I want to expand on something that you all mentioned, the network. They bring the far right and the right together through anti-gender narratives, anti-queer narratives. I think it's fair to say that the left is not always, or progressives are not always the best at not getting split up over single issues and splitting up in different movements or not talking to each other. The right is arguably better than us in coming together behind a narrative like that. But there have been great examples, especially over the last months, not only the election in Hungary, but for example, My Voice, My Choice as the European Citizens Initiative, the European Citizens Initiative on the ban of conversion therapy that managed to get into the European Parliament, where we brought different actors together, women's movements, queer movements, also unions, to push for change. So, in the spirit of what Helena said in her keynote, stop being defensive and getting offensive, what are the strategies to create not only a narrative but a network? What can be issues from your point of view that brings together movements on the progressive side that probably haven't worked together as well as they should have, so that we not only defend the rights that we achieved so far, but also expand on them? So that would be my question, probably the other way around, or?
With pleasure, I start. So maybe I start with something critical right now, and I hope others will do that in a more positive way. I mean, of course, we all know that those right-wing ones, they are simply good because they are copying us. They're copying us, the methods we used over decades, which are excellent. And so somehow we became a little bit more sleepy. So somehow to start, I would like to say, let's start also within our own movement. It's a bit critical right now what I'm saying, but sometimes I just have the impression that even within the progressive movements, there are not only progressive feminists, you just have a couple of patriarchal structures within our own movement, and maybe we should tackle that more in a more offensive, in a more active, in a more outspoken way. Of course, very nicely, but I think what I don't like is our own hypocrisy that's sometimes existing, that we are fighting for the good things, and within our internal structures, we could do sometimes better.
Yeah, networking is very important, and also the work in our own family is very important. And I think what the anti-rights movement want to do, they want to divide us. They want to divide the women's movement from the LGBTI movement with the trans issue. They want to divide and we must pay attention not to fall in the trap when they say, oh, you see, Social Democrat Party and Socialist Party, all they do is talking about LGBTI and gender, and they are woke. This is a narrative that works. And believe me, in our group, we are working so much on the social dimension. I'm in the Ample Committee together with Evelyn. We work, but this goes hand in hand also. And not because we defend women's rights and LGBTI rights, we forget workers' rights. Half of the workers are women, and LGBTI people are also workers. And we are not opposing that. And therefore, we have to really create a big networking together. Rainbow Rose with the progressive women's organizations, with the trade unions also, to bring trade unions in, and this, for me also, protecting equality and deepening the union of equality, when we say now in the European context, and deepening the social union, this is the best to protect and promote democracy, because the attacks of the far-right movement is also an attack on our democracy and etc. So we have to network much broader, not only on societal equality issues, but also the class issues and socioeconomic, say that we defend the rights and when I came this morning, I said, why are we coming here to Barcelona? Well, the world like it develops now, with the richer getting richer, the poorer getting poorer, middle class shrinking, that's not a fatality. We have the ways, and we have to show these ways now to get out of there, and therefore we have no network. And Evelyn is right, some political parties in our family, sometimes they say, oh, progressive means LGBTI. No, it means much more, and shouldn't be afraid. Society is ready. We see it in the member states. We see it with the citizens' initiatives, that people want equality, that equality, they understood that it has nothing to do with ideology. So we must defend this idea together, not isolated as LGBTI community, women's community, trade unionists, but together, and then I think we can be successful and have a very clear, simple narrative, easy words as they use. And sometimes we are becoming too intellectual or too complicated in our messages.
Well, I'm going to agree with what my predecessor has said. I think that when we have to use more than 2 sentences to explain ourselves, we have already lost the battle before the first round, because hatred is very easy to inoculate. I see it with teenagers, right? Adolescence is like a very complex phase, a time where teenagers experience body dysmorphia, where they experience gender-affirming phases, where they experience a social repositioning. So it's very easy to go to them, to take their frustration and turn it into hatred. That's the easy path, right? So what we need to do is go with simple ideas, just as Mr. Angel said. We need to go with the idea of empathy. We need to work together for our struggles. Our struggles do not collide. They're not one against the other. We are moving together. We have it here with this mobilization, right? The motto here is forward together now. This is what we need to portray, a very easy message. We are moving forward together now.
As Helena said, be offensive and not only defensive. And this is a wake-up call. And when I saw the forward, then I remember, forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to underline everything you said, because I think it also added together really nicely. Evelyn in the beginning said it's a good statement to have rainbows in the beginning of the event. That is also a good possibility to take what we're discussing here on to the next panels, which are about to start soon. That's why we are on a tight schedule. That was the segue. I would open the floor for a very short round of questions that we have, and combine that with a closing statement. So does anyone have a question or a short statement that you want to enter into the discussion?
Isabel, you'd break the ice, come on.
Great activist in there, still needing a coffee.
Hi, Carl Hayden from Ireland. I'm a trade unionist working in Ireland. I work for a trade union. I'm a member of a trade union. I'm part of a network that's been set up of LGBT trade unionists who are trying to promote issues within the trade union movement in Ireland and further afield. The European Congress of Trade Unions is setting up an LGBT network, and then there's a global one that's also in the beginning stages. What role do you think trade unions should be playing in terms of LGBT rights, and in particular defending or standing up for trans people?
Is there someone else we would collect them and combine questions or statements? Thank you, Madam President.
So thank you everyone for organizing this panel. My name is Ismael Cortez. I'm director of the National Institute for Gitanas Culture. And I have a comment and a question. The comment is that when we are united, we are undefeatable. And we have proved this in Spain and elsewhere several times. But when we are disunited and divided, then far right and neoconservative, that they are closer and closer to each other, or more indistinguishable, we lose. This is the comment. And now the question, what do you think is the role of culture, yeah, as a space to defend plural societies and tolerant societies? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think we have one more behind there.
I should say culture. Culture, yeah. What culture? I didn't know.
Hi, my name is Isabelle Le Gallo. I'm the Secretary General of the Economic and Social Committee, the European Economic and Social Committee. I'm a woman, I'm a lesbian, I'm a mother, and my question, I like very much one of the points that you mentioned, which is starts with institutions and then goes to the streets. And I would like to reverse and to ask you, how do you think we can unite transversally to institutions just to make sure that we have the right level of defenders, of fighters, and of visibility that we actually need inside these institutions, but transversally to unite and to make networks so we actually support each other in our fights. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would take these three topics. The role. Oh, sorry, we have one. Yeah, one more. I'm getting bad looks from behind already.
It's a bit a lot.
Thank you. My name is Sara Kuka Salam, and I am the president or chairperson for the Religious Social Democrats in Sweden. In Sweden, we have the situation where the far right is using LGBT solidarity as a fake solidarity to bash on the Muslim community and the religious community. And I would want to hear your reflection, whether that happens in your countries as well, and if you have any ideas on how we can tackle this phenomena together.
Thank you. For the four questions, I would combine those, the role of trade unions, the role of culture, the question how to transform institutions and use institutions, and the question about the religious perspective and this fake solidarity. And ask you, to make it a bit more complicated for the closing statement as well, let's assume we gather here again in 5 years and probably won't have had the progressive revolution worldwide yet, but we will have made some important gains on the European level in different countries. What do we need, also keeping those four questions in mind, what will we have done in the next 5 years? What's the main struggle that we work on? What's the perspective that we should work on so that we can celebrate here a bit more in 5 years and what we take away as a message here? Do you want to start?
Yes, with pleasure. Thanks for all. I mean, every question somehow could take us for quite a while. I'd like to sum it up like this. First of all, I'm really convinced, and not only because I'm an optimist all the time, that in 5 years, the altogether democratic situation in Europe will be better. I'm absolutely convinced. Why? It's always on inclusion. It's on inclusion of the trade unions, it's inclusion of the cultural, those who are deeply in cultural issues, of the religious communities. And I really can give examples, trade unionists doing the utmost excellent work on integrating those obstacles the LGBTIQ community has with the workplace. And of course they are doing that also with the single mothers and so on. So what has to be done is to go even more in depth. We, for example, at the European Parliament are dealing just with mental health at work. So somehow, isn't that an issue when you can say diversity is the normal, and diversity causes so often in an individual situation, of course, problems. When you're old, then you have other things that you're tackling than when you're just in the moment that you're in a partnership, that you're maybe having handicaps or whatever. So somehow that's the crystal clear thing that trade unions, what can they do? Simply do their jobs as works councils, as those dealing with collective agreements, as those fighting in social partnership. And therefore, of course, I can't answer all the questions because there is a wonderful panelist with me, but I really would like, because it was coming to my mind, the question concerning the religious community. We had in the European Parliament a wonderful intergroup that was called Work-Life Balance. And there it was that we progressives, who don't shy away from words like family. That is very quickly the conservative and whatever terrible picture. Or religion, we're not shying away, and we're cooperating very closely with different communities from the religious part. So somehow, when it was on the Sunday Alliance, when it was on working time, when it was on so many issues, we could cooperate. Even on tax issues, I discovered something. So of course, we have another issue on abortion, that's clear. But somehow, let's go there where you can work together and do something together. And I think these allies are needed amongst trade unions. And of course, then I think Mark will come in for culture and the others as well. And therefore, I'm deeply convinced that things what we are doing right now, that's hope. And the Rainbow Rose community is doing an excellent job in that, also on strengthening those cooperations.
Thank you.
Yes, trade unions have an important role to play in equality issues because they are a big part of the social dialogue. And like, for example, the Pay Transparency Directive, this law to close the gender pay gap, we were very attentive to put articles in it to give rights to the trade union to support the workers to see if there's a transparency of wages in the company and that they can to see if it's equal pay for equal work between men and women. So they have a very important role. Also, when it comes to the trans community, for example, it's important that that they help and that they make pressure, that companies have rules and support people who are transitioning. They have a role to play when it comes to collective bargaining, and parenthood leave, etc. That same-sex couples have the same parenthood leaves when they adopt a child or when they have a child through surrogacy than heterosexual couples, etc. So all there, I think trade unions have an important role to play. The question. You said when we are united, we are undefeatable. That's very important. Therefore, we have to be so. That's why I said women's movement, LGBTI movement, and within the LGBTI movement, you know, there is the homonationalism now, and this links also a bit to the religious questions. In the far right, there is now many openly gay men. Normally, it's gay men who are very vocal and who say that trans and that's all ideology, but sexual orientation is okay, and the rights, gay rights, are attacked by the Muslims, by the migrants. That's the big danger. As they say that femicides and the violence against women is basically only the migrants, and they put it on the migrants, which are basically mostly Muslims, and this is very, very dangerous. And I always counter them in the parliament, and I say, listen, if you see the names of the perpetrators who raped Gisèle Pellicot in France, most of the names are very typical French names, so we always have to counter also these narratives with very concrete and with numbers and statistics. This is very important. The institutions play a very important role, and the far right is being very organized, and they are opening up offices in Brussels, and they are organizing conferences in the European Parliament through the far right political groups. We had an event where the Heritage Foundation was present, where an MP, a member of parliament from Uganda, a woman who was on the lead to have this law in Uganda for the death penalty, and this is very dangerous, and we change the rules now. I'm a member of the Bureau and a questor in the Parliament to see how we can better have control on these outreach events, that they are not going against fundamental rights and harm the reputation of the Parliament, because the European Parliament is the house of democracy, and you cannot say whatever you want in that. There is hate speech and there is limits. So we're working on that, and it's very good that we have also interinstitutional cooperation and make sure, because they're infiltrating Trump. Now finally Orban is gone. One of the biggest think tank is the MCC, which was sponsored 6 million euros a year, a Hungarian think tank. We have Ordo Iuris, etc. So we have to, and they're opening offices in Brussels and infiltrating. So we have to be very, very careful. Before I wanted to give you two good news, and the European Court of Justice is a very good ally also for equality. And we have a lot of good judgments, and it helped us also in our political work when we worked on the pay transparency directive, which says in the treaties 57 equal pay between men and women, but then the court said the concept of men and women has evolved over the last 70 years. So now when we talk about men and women, is men and women in all their diversity. And next Tuesday will be the judgment of the famous Hungary case. This first case where 16 member states and the European Parliament supported the Commission to go against this so-called child protection law, which is the copy of the Russian anti-LGBTI propaganda law. And the opinion of the Advocate General was very positive, and we hope for a very positive outcome. Yes. So follow that next week.
Just very briefly, very fast. I just wanted to add just one idea. When we talk about unions, in 1977, when we marched in the streets of Barcelona, we were 4,000 people thanks to unions, because worker solidarity made us be 4,000 people instead of 200 people. And that's very important. It widens our coalition, the Coalition for Rights. And I just want to say about the networking between institutions. I think in Europe we have something that we have to take advantage of, and it's that the rule of law plays in our favor. Yes. It's not that way everywhere in the world, so we need to take advantage of that, and we need to work together and don't lose focus, because we are on the right. It's very important that we are on the right path. And just last, there was this point about when they take advantage of LGBTQ individuals, or they take advantage of women just to instrumentalize them, we always remind them, you're not there when we need you. You're not there when we talk about reproductive rights. You're not there when we talk about trans rights. You're not there when we actually need you. And you can just make a facade and say you are for our rights. That's not true, because you're not there all the time, and this is where we need you, right? And you said, where do we see ourselves in 5 years? I think that we need to see ourselves reclaiming the concept of freedom. They do not own the concept of freedom. We do, because without equality, there's no freedom at all.
Very nice. Final words.
Thank you so much also for the answers. Thanks for everyone who's been here. We are already finished. I invite all of you just to do two things. I saw many people taking pictures. Please tag Rainbow Rose as well in those pictures. And secondly, use these discussions, what the inputs, use hope and freedom for the panels to come. And all the best for the next 2 days. Thank you.